All right, it's Friday, December 23rd. This is an end of the day and end of the week SPY recap. You can see here today we end up with an inside day relative to yesterday, in between the highs and the lows of yesterday. And we pretty much stayed in between the high and low of the pre-market range with a little bit of a bias to the upside. So we had a little bit of a green day. But that doesn't necessarily tell us much about what's going to happen next week. We have a short week next week. In terms of the weekly chart, which we were monitoring closely, we do have the potential for a three bar, two down, two up reversal. But in order to get that two up, we have to go above the weekly high, which on the daily chart means we have to get above this high to really feel comfortable that we're going to end the year strong. What could happen on Tuesday when trading resumes is we could, with this inside bar, a lot of times I like to look for a lot of people play the breakout of inside bars, which is fine. You can try that. But if it fails and comes back to the midpoint of that bar, then we're going to probably head to the lower end of that range. Same way on the downside. If we start down and can't really reach our target, then we could fail, come back through the midpoint of the bar, and then expect to go to the opposite end of the range. So it's kind of tricky on this inside bar if we break out up or down, which I'm sure we'll do one way or the other, whether we're going to necessarily follow through. And that's something we're going to look for with the price action early in the session, when we get some kind of a signal, either up or down. In terms of today's action, I shot several videos as it was developing. There was definitely a bias given the early price action to try to break out lower. Once we kind of came here, there was a high probability we were going to take out that low and test it, which we did. We stayed down there for a bar, and then there was an economic piece of news that kind of jolted the market higher. And once I got here, I described that I was buying calls because I determined that was a two down, two up failure here early in the session. Bought the calls here, and eventually we did work up. I scaled out here to separate hours trade. We came down a little bit, just into that fair value gap, a little bit of a pause, and then we kind of tested those highs again, never really breaking out above that. So, it was definitely an up bias day once you saw that we failed to the downside, and you had some decent action to the upside, although it was choppy. But in terms of the bigger picture, daily chart here, inside day. So inside days either break out and hit their targets. If we have, let's say we break out and have a nice strong 15-minute bar to the upside, well, at that point I'll expect us to hit the target. But if we just break out and fail, these inside bars look to go the opposite way. On the weekly chart, we're going to see a very neutral bar here, which kind of makes sense after a broadening action down. You don't always get that immediate 3, 2, 2, 2, 2 follow through. A lot of times it's just broadening action that goes the other way, and this digestion week seems to indicate we might be breaking back up to the upside to try the highs, but you never know. We'll let price action lead the way. And on the monthly chart, with only now a few days to go in the month and actually the year, it looks like it's getting tougher and tougher to reach our downside target, but which was projected here early in the month when we failed. We had all month to get down here. We still have a few days to go. So if we get a pretty weak, opening, maybe below the midpoint of this week, start lower strongly, we can hit this yellow line first target, and then the monthly target down here around 370. So anything's possible if we get some negative, price action, but we'll have to see. So let's just see coming into the next week, end of the year, and we'll do a yearly recap at that point as well, what develops. But for now, we're just consolidated after kind of a broadening week the week before, and this can go either way, up or down. We don't know yet. But we'll see. Really, we'll start with this inside bar from Friday and see if we, once we break out either up or down, whether we continue or fail. That'll be a big sign as to, I think, how we end the week. So let's see what happens. And today, again, after the failure to the downside, this was the type of price action where early in the session you got long. This was the low of the day, and you kind of moved up to that top of the range target all day long.